Hello everybody, Missing Jin here. And, well, I'm hearing about a lot about this organization called Collective Shout. Now, if you don't know anything about Collective Shout, a lot of these people are basically an organization, and going by their own information here that I am kind of looking over, it says Collective Shout is for anyone who's concerned about the increasing pornification of culture and the way its messages have been entrenched in mainstream society, presenting distorted and dishonest ideas about women and girls, sexuality, relationships. I do have a question here, though. Looking at this, where's all the idea of men? Why is men not concluded in here? Like, this is ridiculous to me. Like, I don't understand why you're sitting here trying to say like women and children, but you're not talking about men. And most of the time when you're doing these things, it's attributing towards men. So you're affecting a demographic that you're not even trying to cater towards. That makes no sense. And it's not ever going to end great. Since our launch in 2010, we have achieved many wins. Billboards identifying women pulled down, sexualized children clothing withdrawn from sale. I mean, I'm okay with that one, I guess. Depends on what sexually explicit means. Sexually violent video games banned, and Andrew Tate's pimping courses removed from Spotify, and an age verification trial on the way to help protect kids from exposure to porn. Okay, two of those things I'm okay with. The idea of sexualized children for children and the idea of exposure to porn, I'm completely for because they're children. But they're trying to entrench a lot of that stuff into everyone being censored for everybody, and a lot of times these things that they're trying to get rid of are not even aimed towards those people. And then they conclude things that are good, but then other stuff they're not. So basically, if you go against one thing, you go against the entire thing, and some of the stuff is actually good in comparison. And from what I'm seeing here, it's more about girls and women. It's not about little boys and everything. So that kind of just makes me disgusted, because men and boys also need protection, but we don't care about those people. Of course we don't. So going through all this stuff here, looking at it, I don't know where they stand as a group. I don't know if this is a feminist movement. I don't know if this is a Christian movement, kind of combination of both, which should be diametrically opposed from each other. I don't know. The reason why I'm getting on about these people is because, if you haven't heard recently, this group decided to target credit card companies like Visa, MasterCard, I think even Japanese affiliated ones too, that aren't even here in the States where I live, or in Western countries in general. They decided to target these companies, say, hey, look at this stuff. This is adult-oriented content. You're letting people buy this stuff. And basically, credit cards companies said, no, we're not going to allow that. We have a stance on that, and decided to basically say we're not going to pay for these, and so Steam was forced to take these games down. Now, I have a different take than most people would, but I came to the same conclusion. My conclusion is this, so we can get into the whole thing. You don't even have to wait for my 2 cents on the matter. I believe that things should not be censored. I think you should be able to make the choice to look at this content and whatever repercussions they have. I do not believe that these things should be illegal. I don't think that anyone should be telling other people what they should and should not do. And the idea of trying to do this never ends well, because what happens is that a lot of people become more opposed to the idea than others. We've already seen what happened when this occurred with the idea of the certain demographics with our current presidential candidate that's now our president of this country, Donald Trump. The reason why he was elected because of a lot of the things going on for the last 4 years before that with Joe Biden and his administration, but trying to force political ideals down our throats in every little aspect of our lives. And it's still going on right now. And people have fought against it. And that's why Donald Trump pretty much got elected again. Not that, and the fact he was actually politically and financially and personally attacked by the other side. People are done with this kind of garbage, okay? Myself included. But the fact of the matter is, just because I might be on the side of something or have certain, like I read that thing, there's two of those things that I completely agree with. But the fact is that there's certain things that you have to realize people are not going to follow you if you try to force them to do it. You change them by giving them information and allowing them to make that choice. And I'm going to give something straight out right now. I am a conservative Christian. I believe in the Christian values. I believe in that the only way to come to salvation is through Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord. I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not saying that if you're a different religion that you are a horrible person. That certain aspects of your life, because I don't, just in my definition of being a conservative Christian, I do not believe in homosexuality. I do not believe in living with people you're not married to. There's other aspects too that I don't endorse either. But I'm a tolerant person who believes in that if a person comes to Christ, truly comes to Christ, Christ will change their hearts and minds. And they will make the decision that is because they love Jesus. And they will do the right thing. Now, that is a choice. God gives you a choice. God has always given choices to people. If they don't want to follow Jesus, that's perfectly fine. That's their volition. Okay? The idea of forcing people to do something such as, I don't know, censoring things because you don't like it is never going to work at all. It's just never going to work. And I'm sick and tired of Christian and other activist groups trying to tell people what they can and cannot do. We've already had the temperance movement back earlier in the 1900s. We already had the idea of trying to ban violent video games back in the early 90s. It never worked out. Okay? The fact is that we already have a rating system called the ESRB, which basically has been, which we should try to actually change because it's abusing the privileges. Okay? Just an example, we still have the idea of gambling in kids' games, which is supposed to be M for mature by default. Oh, but it's not real gambling. I mean, they had one, I don't know how many years ago it was. Was it 2023, 2022? I don't know. Actually had gambling machines in it. It actually had slot machines for getting cards for your My Career thing or something for Madden or something. I don't know because I don't play those games. But I remember that because Angry Joe went over a lot and he was not happy about it. But it's literally these slot machines and all this other stuff in there. And that's, to me, is problematic, but it doesn't look like anyone's trying to get rid of that. No, we're going to go sexualization and stuff. I say, but what's considered sexualization? Okay. I have a little bit of a problem with the idea of what occurred, but at the same time, it's not something I would condone, but as I said, that's for people to make their own decisions on, not for me to make that decision for them. These games, these adult-oriented games that were on Steam that now have been revoked because Steam had it bend the knee because payment people wouldn't actually allow people to make the payments, which as a credit card company, you shouldn't be able to do that because I'm using your service to make a purchase. You shouldn't have no right to tell me what I can and cannot buy. Okay? I mean, it shouldn't be for adult-oriented games, regardless of consequences, but it also shouldn't be for, like, what if somebody says, well, I don't like Christianity because they're too judgmental, so they said I can't buy a Bible on my credit card. You know what I mean? I'm looking at this more from a more rational point of view, but at the same time, as I said, people will make that choice. People don't come to Christ because they're forced to. If you're forced to be a Christian, that means you're not really a Christian. It's a relationship aspect. It's not a religious aspect, and I think a lot of Christians get this wrong. Okay, so for people that are not Christian, there's two aspects of Christianity. The religious aspect and the relationship aspect. A lot of people follow the religious aspect. They want to follow the precepts of the Ten Commandments, all the stuff in the Bible, blah, 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 blah. Why do I say blah, 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 blah? Because that's not what you should be doing. The real one is the relationship aspect. The idea of having a relationship with Jesus Christ, because he saved you from your sins. You become a new being because you have been born again as a Christian. You want to follow Christ not because you're forced to. You follow these aspects because you want to. You understand? You want to follow them. You're making the choice to follow them. Yes, exactly. I am not trying to preach to you. I'm just giving you the lowdown here. And the fact is that I'm a gamer. Okay, I've played multiple types of games. I've played Doom Eternal. I have played Cyberpunk 2077. I have played Resident Evil. I have played a lot of games that are very violent and gory. Also Dead Island 2, which somehow actually makes me wish that Resident Evil would have those type of physics in there, but that's another choice, another thought for another time. But I play these games, and a lot of people say, well, these are violent video games. You shouldn't be playing those. I'm saying, who told you what I can and cannot do? Have you read the Bible? Let me give you some 3 different parts of the Bible that you should know about that actually happened in the Old Testament. Let me give you some lowdowns here. I don't know the entire names of all these people, but I'll have a few things where you didn't realize this was part of the Bible. One, there was a thing, I think it was Gideon's son. I can't remember the guy's name because they have some weird names. But Gideon's son killed all his siblings in a single day and decided to try attacking a location. I can't remember the location. And all these people went to a tower to escape him. And this man basically was trying to break down the doors to this location. And a woman on the topmost tower, or high up in the towers, dropped a giant millstone on his head. This man was such a misogynistic piece of human debris that he literally had his subordinate kill him so he wouldn't die by the hand of a woman. That happened in the Bible. Also, the fact that people don't believe that the idea of mediums exist. It never said that in the Bible. It says, and I think the King James Version, it goes, you never suffer a wish to live. Saul, yes, King Saul of the Old Testament, went to go see a medium to talk to the prophet. He had just recently died, and he contacted the spirit of this advisor. I can't remember the name. It was a prophet. I can't remember the prophet's name. I'm horrible with names. I can't remember exactly who it was. Was it Samuel? No, maybe it was Samuel. I don't know. But I know he contacted this person, and the prophet was not very happy with the guy. In fact, he said, because you have done this, and you know you weren't supposed to do this because the Lord told you not to, you will be the next battle you have, you will lose that battle. And you'll be hoisted on your own spear. And guess what happened? He was hoisted on his own spear. Okay. What's another one I can go with? Oh, yes, that one. Ever heard of Sodom and Gomorrah? Oh, yes. The word sodomy does come from that. Just FYI. No, but that's not really what it is. If you heard about Lot, Sodom and Gomorrah before, it was basically annihilated by God through a firestorm. And not only that, his wife turned back to look towards it and turned into a pillar of salt because of her. They were told not to look back. She did. So she turned into a pillar of salt. He lost his wife literally in seconds. And he went into the mountains with both his 2 daughters. Now, not to talk about just the facts of what happened. I'm going to talk about it in a second. But Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because 2 angels came to Lot and told him and his family to leave. Okay? I think it was actually because Abraham said he wanted to save his nephew, I think he was. I don't know. I know they're related. So basically 2 angels came to Sodom and Gomorrah where Lot was at and to his house and told him to leave. They came in the guise of 2 men. Well, Sodom and Gomorrah was so debased that these men, and whatever, I don't know if it was just men, it might have been women too or whatever, they came to Lot's house and say, bring these men out so we get to know them. They want to have sex with the angels. No joke. In their debauchery, they were struck blind. Now, you would think by this time they would be scared. No, they were so debaucherous, they were literally groping around trying to find new men. Lot even offered his own 2 daughters instead, and they rather have taken the men. So, it was pretty bad. Okay, so I'm just giving you a taste of how bad this place was. Now, when these places were destroyed, and he was in the mountains, because he went there because he was fearful for his life. He didn't want people to find out that he was the cause or the reason why this occurred, even though it was really God's plan, not really his, but he was scared that if they found out who he was, they would kill him. So he stood up in these caves away from civilization with his 2 daughters. Now, you would think that his 2 daughters would, stop being so worried about it, but they were just as scared as their father, thinking that, well, they know they're their father, they might hurt us. But they wanted to have children. I don't know if you know where this is going, because it's going to go somewhere where you're not expecting. They grew vineyards during this time, and they got him drunk in his own wine and slept with their own father. No, I did not stutter. So you want to talk about disturbing things? Those things were in the Bible. So can we please understand that the idea of contacting spirits, the idea of misogynistic tendencies towards women, and the idea of literal incest has been talked about in the Bible. And that's not talking about David's own son and half-sister, who he literally had overloving lust for, who he raped. No, David's son, not and half-daughter, not David himself. I mean, that's not talking about the fact that David literally killed a man for his wife, Bathsheba. So, it seems to go full circle in that family. And also that's the line of David, which also happened to be where Jesus Christ came from. Just to let you know. So, there is a couple little problems even there if you know what I mean. But, yeah, just to say, things in the Bible point out to the fact that there's things that happen, and there's things that you can understand. But the idea of depicting these type of things and understanding them literally exposes you to these situations. And I think you know where I'm going with this. The fact of the matter is this. You can't stop people being exposed to certain things. And I'm not saying that you should expose yourself intentionally, because you're going to be exposed to it regardless if you like it or not. There's going to be women wearing scantily-clad clothing all the time. People lying to people in front of their faces. Literally seeing management that you're supposed to be under. Literally doing things that you know are illegal, unethical, or both. You're going to see these things, and you're going to be exposed. So the idea of saying get rid of video games, it's not going to get rid of the exposure. Now, here's the other thing, too. Since I am 18 years or older, I'm 37 years young, I was on Steam, and they kept giving me pornographic material. And trust me, I don't like this stuff. Christian. Okay? So I don't like this stuff. And there's actually a way to censor it so you don't have to see it. You do know that, right? There actually is a way to censor this material. You don't actually have to have access to it. And it's labeled on there that it's adult-oriented content, adult only. You have to verify your age. You literally want to go to it to get access to this. And a lot of these games mostly are enjoyed by people that are not American anyway. I mean, there's probably is a few people that do. But most of these people are probably in a lot of places like Japan, Korea, stuff like that, maybe. And this is like getting rid of it for them and try to force your culture onto their culture. I mean, in our society here, okay, we are more about the idea of not exposing people to sexual content, okay? And violence and gore are kind of a secondary aspect. Like, we don't like violence, but we will tolerate to more of an extent than sex. Eastern countries like Japan, like Japan, for example, maybe even Korea, I don't know. I don't know if they have a similar standard, but I know definitely in Japan, they're more about the idea of that that violence and gore is like we have, is more taboo, like sexual content is here, and sexual stuff is less so, kind of like our violence and gore. So it's kind of flip-flopped. So they don't see it as a problem. And their age of consent and stuff's completely different. They have a completely different religion, a completely different culture, and forcing that on them is ridiculous. Now, there is Christians probably in Japan. I know there is. And they probably don't indulge in these things. And they probably try to convert other people, and they will turn again, by choice, not to touch these things. And the choice will make the change. For example, if there's so many people that become Christian or people that are against these things by choice, the games will disappear and die because no one's going to buy them. It's just kind of like how these DEI content, like Dragon Age, The Veil Guard, Destiny Shadows, and stuff like that dissipated. Because the fact is, no one wanted to buy it. No one wanted to buy it because it was garbage. Enough people said no, and it died out. A lot of these games now are not doing this anymore. Some still are for some stupid asinine reason and try to disguise it, but it's not good. That's why a lot of independent developers are picking up the slack, and a lot of people want to play their games. I mean, games like Dredge, Loop Hero, there's a whole bunch of different things. The games coming out all the time, and some of these games are amazing. They are so well produced, and they are not made by AAA developers. Oh yeah, can't forget about Larian Studios and Baldur's Gate 3. I can't forget about them. I mean, everyone says you should expect the same standards from that. And I'm going like, they had less, like probably fifth of the people you guys have made a great budget, great game. I know they use early access, but that actually makes sense in their case, and made it a really good game. And there is some elements in there that could be considered woke, but everyone mainstream liked it. It wasn't pushing your face. It was, they put that they wanted to put in it, regardless if it's something you like or not. But at least it was very well received. It's a choice. But forcing people to do this is irritating to me, because it also, the thing is to me is that when you, especially if you're a Christian organization doing this stuff, I don't know if they are. I don't know if they're feminist or Christian or whatever they are. Okay, I'm not looked a lot into them. But these people need to understand that people will turn away from it if they see the implications of the problem. The problem with a lot of this stuff is it's not violence towards women and girls, okay? Most of the time, most people, okay, probably about 80% or 90% of people won't play games like this. They don't want to. They say like, ew. Or they play it out of morbid curiosity to say like, well, and laugh about it because it's so obscene. But most people aren't going to play that for the enjoyment. Okay, most people, at least here in the States. I don't know. I don't know the demographic. I haven't done the research. I might have to do that one of these days. But you can't force it. Okay, it irritates me because as a Christian, when this whole Goonergate thing happened back with the whole First Descendant or whatever, when all these conservative influencers are pushing it, they were called out for their hypocrisy. Everyone has skeletons in their closet. I do too. I'm just going to admit to what I do. I had a pornography addiction. I still have it to this day. I still have problems with that stuff. I can't play a lot of games that have skankily clad characters in it. But if you want to play it and you're Christian and you don't have a problem with it, I don't have an issue with it. But I can't play that stuff. But I'm not going to force it on you to say, you can't play with those skinny clad women because it makes me aroused. You know? That's just not okay. I'm not going to tell you that because I have problems and things that I can't be exposed to, but doesn't mean you can't be exposed to them. And the idea of trying to tell me that I can't do this and you basically cut it off from the ankles is ridiculous. You can't sit here and try telling me that I have to abide by what you want. People are tired of this stuff. We've had it for so long in this country. For the last 4 years, the reason why Donald Trump was elected again was because he was personally, financially, and politically assassinated by everybody. And everyone else was also being attacked constantly if you didn't believe in these certain things, if DEI was a part of your repertoire, if you weren't allowing for these LGBTQ things and all this stuff, which I don't agree with at all. Homosexuality is bad enough to me, but I mean, even if you're homosexual and you do things, most people that are like that are usually very much just, I'm attracted to the same gender, but I act normal like everybody else. I've known people that have been gay, so they don't act like any differently. They just happen to be gay, you know? The LGBTQ has taken it way too far. Okay, but we're not going to get into that. What I'm saying is that forcing it down people's throats turns people off, and it helps people rebel against it. And this is going to become a firestorm because now everyone's going to be turned away towards conservative ideals because now they're saying, well, you're conservative, you're trying to push this stuff. I say, I'm trying to get it ahead of it and tell you, no, not all of us conservatives are for that. We think you should have a choice. We don't agree with what you're doing, but we're tolerant of it, and we don't think that you should be getting rid of things because we don't agree with it. Okay? We're supposed to be disciples to every nation, baptizing people in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That's the Great Commission. Does it say anywhere in there we're supposed to force people to do it? Disciples means to teach people about Christ. That's the entire point of it. I'm not, as I say, I'm not trying to convert you. I'm trying to just give you the idea of what a Christian is supposed to be actually doing. And that the fact is that this stuff doesn't work when you force people. A lot of people, just getting into a little bit of ministry and evangelism, a lot of places where Christians go to don't even have a written language. So what they have to do, they have to learn the language, get a written language created for this culture. And then they have to understand idioms and other things of that nature to talk to them and to be able to cause a relationship with them. The relationship comes first. It's not teaching the Bible. And then later on, people say, well, why do you act this way? And then they tell them, and they come to the conclusion if they want to or not. The forcing thing is starting to make me angry because then what happens is people are turned off. And then people like me who just want to, say, hey, I believe in Jesus and, I'm just, that's just what Jesus taught me and I just tell him about it, whatever. That's what it's supposed to be. That's what ministry is supposed to be like. Not this idea of we're going to force it down your throats, tell you what you got to do and whatever. It doesn't work. Nothing of this stuff works. And this idea of this organization with trying to defend women and children, but yet at the same time not defending everyone. It should be defending everybody, not just a few people. And it's so irritating to me because do you think just women and children need to be whatever? It looks like women and girls. They're not even talking about boys and men, which, by the way, a lot of them need help just as much. And this is the people that you're affecting. The boys and the men are the ones who look at this stuff, not the women and girls. Oh, you're subjectively showing this to them. I'm going like, first of all, no, they're not. Are they watching pornography? Pornography is objectifying women. I will say to that. Okay? Again, though, that's for your choice to make that, to look at it or not. I still have problems with it myself, so I admit to that, even though I don't like it. Okay? But at the same time, looking at stuff like that is animation. It's not looking at anything that's real. But at the same time, that's a gray area that I don't believe is a gray area as my Christian belief. But that's a gray area for discussion okay? At least in a secular realm, at least. But the idea is that if you turn away from it, you're turning away because of your choice of it, not because you're made to do it. And a lot of times is that you're affecting the men that are being shown this stuff. And a lot of times they start out with other things and grow into watching this stuff more and more. What you should be doing is when they're at a young age, teaching them about this stuff, and so they can make the choice not to do it. The fact of the matter is, a lot of times, the reason why they get into this stuff is because they're not taught properly. I've seen constantly now, it's not the fault of these products. These products are providing a service. The reason why the service even existed in the first place is because people weren't even teaching them about how to have a relationship between a man and a woman, or a healthy relationship with another partner. Even though I believe it is between a man and a woman, but I'm not trying to force it on you, okay? I'm trying to say this is what my mindset is, but I'm not forcing it on you, okay? It's a choice. I'm going to keep alliterating that here. It's a choice, okay? So the fact is that a lot of these men have these problems because none of these men can, find relationships, don't know what to do with relationships because people aren't teaching them properly. The real problem is not the actual service itself. It's the fact they can't find fulfillment, and that's why they get into it in the first place. I can tell you that from experience. Thank you very much. So, without that relationship, without a connection, they don't feel fulfilled. You know why? That's a problem. And the fact of the matter is, instead of trying to find a way to say, hey, they're looking at this, but why are they? They're looking at it as, well, this is a problem because it's addicting women and stuff like that. I'm saying, I think most men, if they knew it was a real person, probably wouldn't be looking at this stuff, okay? And they knew that these people were sex slaves or something, they would go I didn't know that. I am never going to watch this again. They still have some type of morality. Just saying. It's difficult for me to be really non-biased here because being a Christian and all, but I'm looking at it at different points of view, looking at different viewpoints, and that's what I'm trying to say is a lot of these men probably don't have a lot of guidance because no one's giving them guidance. No one's giving men guidance to say, hey, this stuff, you should have a fulfilling relationship with another person so you can have a family and raise children. That should be what your goal is. My goal is that way, even if I am 37 and still single. I really want to have a family. That's what I want to look towards. Right now, I don't have financially able to do so. But it took me a while to get to that point. I had a lot of problems I had to work through. I should have learned this at 27, not 37. But at the same time, regardless of my problems, I come to that conclusion. And a lot of men need that help. But they don't want to do that. They just want to get rid of things and keep on putting them in a smaller and smaller box, and instead of trying to say why do they do that, not that they are doing it. Because it might surprise you to know some people just need guidance, not cancelization. Well, thank you very much for listening, and for my 2 cents, And hopefully I didn't try preaching you too much. I wasn't trying to do that. But I thank you so much for listening. And again, you'll never know what will come out of my mouth.